Welcome back to The Quiet Drift. If you enjoy Willow's story, don't forget to subscribe to The Quiet Drift. You'll get a notification whenever a new episode is released.
May 28th, 2026.
The late afternoon sun, a low, burnished coin, begins its gentle descent, still high enough to spill across the western rim of the cove. Its light, thick and golden, stretches like warm honey across the glassy surface of the water, dissolving the dark reflections of the towering firs into shimmering threads of amber and rose. You watch from the cockpit as the light finds its way, dancing in small, intricate patterns on the Myra's weathered deck, illuminating the fine grain of the Douglas fir and catching the subtle silvering of salt spray on the varnish. Each ripple on the cove's surface becomes a facet, briefly flashing with gold before sinking back into the deepening blues and greens of the sheltered water. A faint breeze, carrying the rich, bracing scent of salt and the deeper, resinous aroma of pine needles warmed by the sun, stirs the air. It whispers through the rigging, a soft, almost imperceptible hum that feels more like a memory of sound than an actual vibration. The mast, tall and unwavering, casts a long, slender shadow that stretches across the deck and onto the dock, a temporary sundial marking the slow passage of the day. You can feel the slight, rhythmic sway of the Myra beneath you, a gentle lull that has become as familiar as your own heartbeat, a constant reminder of the water that cradles her. Chester, a magnificent splash of orange against the muted tones of the deck, is curled in a tight, sun-drenched ball on the foredeck, his white cravat a bright accent against his fiery fur. The golden light seems to gather in his coat, making him glow with an almost internal warmth. He is utterly still, a study in feline contentment, his breathing so shallow it barely stirs the fur on his flanks. A single twitching ear, almost imperceptible, is the only sign that he is not entirely lost to dreams. Beyond the narrow channel that opens to the sea, a solitary cormorant perches on a jagged, dark rock, its silhouette stark and elegant against the pale, distant sky. It holds its wings half spread, drying them in the waning warmth, a still, ancient sentinel watching the ebb and flow of the tide. Its presence feels timeless, a quiet punctuation mark in the vast, unhurried narrative of the cove. The air is so clear, so still, that the faint, almost imperceptible murmur of the distant sea, a soft, perpetual sigh, seems to carry across the water, a subtle invitation to the wider world beyond this sheltered haven. You take a slow, deep breath, drawing in the cool, clean air, letting it fill your lungs with the scents of the forest and the sea. The world narrows to this moment, this breath, this quiet unfolding of light and sound. There is a sense of belonging here, a deep, resonant peace that settles into your bones, a feeling of being precisely where you are meant to be. The worries and busyness of another life, another time, feel impossibly far away, like faint echoes from a dream that has long since faded. Here, time seems to stretch and soften, unmoored from the relentless ticking of clocks, measured instead by the sun's arc and the tide's slow turn. The golden light begins to deepen, shifting from bright lemon to a richer, more honeyed hue as the sun dips further towards the distant western hills. It paints the tips of the tallest firs with fire, turning their deep green needles into shimmering emeralds. The shadows lengthen, stretching long fingers across the water and up the forested slopes, bringing a cooler, bluer tone to the edges of the cove. A faint chill begins to creep into the air, a gentle suggestion of the evening to come. You rise slowly from the cockpit seat, the movement unhurried, a quiet rustle of fabric against the varnished wood. Your gaze drifts towards the small island in the center of the cove, its ancient stones now bathed in the soft, indirect light, revealing the myriad shades of green that cling to its surfaces. The moss, deep and luminous, seems to absorb the light rather than reflect it, holding an inner glow that beckons the eye. You remember your quiet resolve from the previous evening, the thought of painting those greens, of trying to capture their intricate depths on canvas. The island has a way of calling to you, a gentle, persistent whisper that you often find yourself answering. Before you consider the dinghy, however, there are the small, familiar rituals of the evening aboard the Myra. You step down into the cabin, the floorboards creaking a soft, familiar welcome underfoot. The air inside is cooler, carrying the faint, comforting scent of beeswax and old wood, mingling with the lingering aroma of the coffee you brewed this morning. The small brass oil lamps, suspended on their hooks, still hold the warmth of the day, their polished surfaces reflecting the dim light that filters through the cabin ports. You move towards the galley, your hands reaching instinctively for the small enamel kettle. It sits on the polished surface of the cast iron wood stove, still cool to the touch. The stove, a compact marvel of engineering, is the heart of the Myra, providing both warmth and the means for simple meals. You check the woodbox beside it, finding a good supply of kindling and small logs, ready for the evening's fire. The thought of the fire's glow, the gentle crackle and pop, brings a quiet anticipation. From a ceramic pitcher on the small folding table, you pour fresh water into the kettle, the sound a gentle gurgle in the stillness of the cabin. The ceramic dishes with their small blue flowers sit stacked neatly, waiting for their next use. Everything in this small space has its place, a sense of order that brings its own comfort. You light a single oil lamp, its flame blossoming with a soft hiss and a gentle golden glow, pushing back the encroaching shadows. The light dances on the varnished teak, revealing the rich warmth of the wood, making the cabin feel even more intimate and inviting. The kettle is placed on the cold stovetop, a prelude to the eventual warmth. You take a moment to look out through one of the cabin ports, watching the light outside deepen further, painting the forested headland with long, purple shadows. The cormorant is still on its rock, a patient observer. You imagine Walter, up in his stone cottage, perhaps already tending his own evening fire, or sitting on his porch, watching the same slow unfolding of dusk. His presence, a quiet anchor on the headland, is a comforting thought, a sense of shared, unhurried time in this secluded world. Chester, seemingly sensing the shift in your attention, or perhaps the subtle change in the light, stirs on the foredeck. He stretches languidly, a long, luxurious arch of his back, extending his claws into the soft wood of the deck with a faint scratching sound. He then rises, gives a quick shake of his head, and with a surprisingly agile leap, lands softly on the dock. You watch as he pads silently along the weathered planks, a fleeting orange shadow against the darkening wood, before disappearing into the dappled light of the path that leads into the forest. He will return later, as he always does, a silent, furry ambassador from the wilder edges of the cove. You turn back to the cabin, the small space now feeling even cozier with the lamp's glow. A book, its spine worn smooth from many readings, lies open on the small bookshelf built into the hull near your berth. You run a finger over the title, a collection of old maritime tales, the kind that speak of distant shores and quiet, profound adventures. The idea of settling in with a cup of tea, the fire crackling, and these stories is a comforting one. But the island still calls. The image of the luminous green moss, so vibrant and alive in the fading light, lingers in your mind. The thought of capturing that particular hue, that specific light, brings a gentle pull of artistic longing. You walk back to the cockpit, feeling the cool evening air on your face, and lean over the side, looking down into the dark, clear water that laps gently against the hull. The Myra murmurs softly, a low, rhythmic sigh, a sound that has become the very soundtrack of your life here. Your eyes trace the outline of the small wooden dinghy, tied alongside the Myra. Its simple lines, its worn oars, speak of countless journeys across the cove, to the island, to the channel, sometimes just for the quiet pleasure of rowing. It would be a short journey to the island, a mere handful of strokes. The light is still holding, a soft, diffuse glow that might be perfect for observation, for sketching, even if the painting itself would wait for tomorrow's full light. You consider the time, the slowing pace of the evening. There is no rush here, no schedule to keep, no appointments to miss. The island will wait, the moss will wait. The quiet rhythm of the cove dictates its own gentle tempo. You could go now, or you could wait for tomorrow, when the sun would be higher, casting different shadows, illuminating the greens in new ways. A faint, almost imperceptible splash ripples near the dock, perhaps a small fish breaking the surface, or a water rat making its evening rounds. The sound is absorbed quickly by the stillness, leaving only the soft lapping of water. The air grows cooler still, and you pull your shawl a little tighter around your shoulders. You decide to make the tea first to build the fire. The warmth of the Myra, the sense of home, is a powerful draw. The island, with its silent, ancient beauty, would still be there. The painting of the moss, that deep, luminous green, feels like a promise, not an urgent task. It is a quiet joy to anticipate, a gentle unfolding of creativity that aligns with the unhurried pace of life here. Yet, as you turn back towards the companionway, your gaze drifts once more to the island. You notice, for the first time, a small, dark shadow near the water's edge on the island, distinct from the surrounding rocks. It's too small to be a fallen log, too regular to be a natural outcropping. It looks almost like a small, overturned boat, or perhaps a large piece of driftwood that has settled in an unusual way. You squint, trying to make out more detail in the fading light, but the distance and the encroaching shadows obscure its precise shape. You've never noticed it before. It's a small, curious detail in the familiar landscape of the cove, a new question posed by the quiet island, a gentle thread of inquiry to carry into the evening. You decide you will certainly row over to the island tomorrow, not just for the moss, but to see what that shadow truly is. The late afternoon light, filtered through the dense canopy of the headland, casts long, soft shadows across the Myra's deck. You watch as Willow moves with an unhurried grace, her hands finding purposeful tasks in the quiet rhythm of the cove. The air is still, carrying only the faint scent of salt and damp earth, a gentle whisper from the surrounding forest. She is seated on the weathered wooden folding chair on the dock, a small canvas bag of sewing supplies beside her. In her lap rests an old canvas sail bag, one of several she uses to store tools and spare line. The stitching along a worn seam has come loose, and her fingers, nimble and accustomed to such work, guide a thick sail needle through the heavy fabric. The thread is strong, waxed linen, pulled taut with a soft *SHH hick as it passes through the canvas. You notice the way her brow is slightly furrowed in concentration, not from difficulty, but from the simple attention to detail that each task demands. Her movements are economical, each push and pull of the needle precise, a silent dance of mending and repair. A faint breeze, almost imperceptible, rustles the lavender in the clay pot beside her, releasing a delicate, sweet fragrance that mingles with the briny air. You watch as a small bee, a blur of fuzzy gold, hovers near the purple blooms before settling gently to gather nectar. Willow seems to notice it too, her gaze lifting for a moment, a faint, soft smile touching her lips before she returns to her mending. The silence of the cove is profound, broken only by the distant, rhythmic creak of a cormorant's wings as it flies low over the water, heading toward the channel. Once the sail bag is mended, it seems strong and true once more. Willow carefully folds it and places it back in the canvas tote. Her hands then reach for a coil of thin line, one of the many lengths of rope that find purpose aboard the Myra. This particular coil is for the dinghy, its ends frayed from countless trips to the island and back. She takes out a sharp knife, its blade glinting softly in the subdued light, and with practiced ease, neatly trims the frayed ends. Then with a small spool of tarred twine and a palm thimble, she begins to whip the ends, binding the strands together to prevent further fraying. It's a slow, repetitive motion, the twine wrapped tightly, secured with a series of half-hitches, each knot pulled firm. Her fingers work with a quiet intensity, creating a neat, durable finish that speaks of care and foresight. Chester, who has been observing from his perch on the Myra's foredeck, a patch of sun-warmed wood his chosen spot, stretches languidly. His orange fur, a vibrant splash against the dark wood, seems to absorb the last rays of the afternoon. He yawns, a wide, pink cavern, then slowly descends the companionway, his tail held high, before padding silently along the dock to where Willow sits. He rubs against her leg, a soft, rumbling purr vibrating in the quiet air. Willow reaches down, her fingers stroking the soft fur behind his ears, and Chester leans into her touch, his eyes half closed in contentment. The quiet intimacy of the moment is palpable, a shared understanding in the gentle caress and the steady purr. As the light begins to dim further, painting the western sky with subtle hues of peach and rose, Willow rises from the folding chair. Her movements are unhurried, a natural extension of the cove's peaceful tempo. She gathers her sewing supplies and places them carefully back in the canvas tote, then carries the newly mended sail bag and the whipped line aboard the Myra, stowing them in their designated places below deck. Her next task is the preparation of supper. You watch as she lights the small oil lamp in the galley, its soft, warm glow pushing back the encroaching shadows. The scent of kerosene, faint and familiar, briefly fills the air before being replaced by the fragrant aroma of rosemary as she snips a few sprigs from the clay pot on the dock. She carries them into the small galley, where a cast iron skillet rests on the two-burner propane stove. Her hands move with a practiced efficiency, chopping a small onion and a few cloves of garlic on a worn wooden cutting board. The rhythmic asterisk thud 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 asterisk of the knife against the wood is a comforting sound, a counterpoint to the gentle lapping of water against the hull. She adds a splash of olive oil to the skillet, and soon the air is filled with the tantalizing fragrance of sautéing aromatics. From a small larder, she retrieves a jar of preserved tomatoes, their rich red color a promise of warmth and flavor. As the sauce simmers gently, she kneads a small portion of dough she prepared earlier, shaping it into flatbreads that she will cook in the skillet. Her fingers work the dough with a quiet strength, folding and pressing, creating a smooth, pliant texture. While the sauce continues to bubble softly, and the dough rests for a moment, Willow turns her attention to the small wood stove in the main cabin. The air inside the Myra has a pleasant coolness, but as evening approaches, the warmth of a fire will be welcome. She opens the small iron door, its hinges creaking softly, and arranges a few pieces of kindling, carefully placing a small log on top. With a long wooden match, she ignites the kindling, and a tiny flame dances to life, quickly catching hold. The initial scent of wood smoke is faint, almost sweet, as it drifts from the stovepipe. You hear the soft crackle and pop of the burning wood, a comforting sound that will soon fill the cabin with its gentle warmth. As the fire begins to establish itself, Willow's gaze drifts around the small cabin, her eyes resting on the varnished teak bulkheads, the brass oil lamps, the bookshelves packed with worn spines. She has seen these details countless times, yet tonight something catches her attention in a new way. It is the small, intricately carved wooden bird perched on a narrow shelf above her berth. It's a seabird, perhaps a cormorant or a guillemot, its wings folded gracefully against its body, its head tilted slightly as if listening. The wood is dark, polished smooth by time and touch, and its maker's hand is evident in every delicate curve. She remembers finding it tucked away in a small wooden box of miscellaneous items when she first moved aboard the Myra. She had assumed it belonged to a previous owner, a quiet relic left behind. But tonight, as the soft lamplight catches its smooth surface, she notices a tiny, almost imperceptible scratch on its breast. It's not a flaw, but a deliberate mark, a single minuscule cross. You watch as her fingers reach out, tracing the tiny mark with a gentle touch. She has never noticed it before, or perhaps she simply hasn't paid enough attention. It is a detail so small, so easily missed, yet now that she sees it, it seems to hold a quiet significance. The mark is not unlike the small pencil crosses she has seen on the rolled chart tucked under her berth, a chart she has yet to fully examine. A fleeting thought crosses her mind, a quiet question about the hands that carved the bird and the meaning of the small, deliberate mark. She withdraws her hand, a soft, almost imperceptible sigh escaping her lips. The moment of quiet discovery passes, leaving behind a faint tremor of curiosity. The fire in the stove continues its gentle crackle, and the scent of the simmering tomato sauce grows richer, more inviting. You notice her attention shifts back to the present, to the simple, satisfying tasks of daily life. She returns to the galley, where the flatbreads are now ready to be cooked. She places them one by one into the hot skillet, and they puff and blister, filling the air with the comforting aroma of warm bread. Finally, as the last of the light fades from the sky, and the cove settles into the deep embrace of twilight, Willow steps out onto the dock once more. In her hand is a small copper watering can. The lavender and rosemary in their clay pots are a deep, muted green in the fading light. She waters them gently, the soft asterisk shush asterisk of water against soil, the only sound in the stillness. You notice the way the water beads on the rosemary leaves, catching the last remnants of light before sinking into the earth. The air is cooler now, carrying the sharper scent of damp earth and distant pines. The stars are beginning to emerge, faint pinpricks of light in the deepening indigo. As she finishes, she looks out across the cove, toward the dark, indistinct shape of the island. The air is still, silent, and deeply peaceful. She turns, her gaze lingering for a moment on the dark, quiet surface of the water, before stepping back aboard the Myra, carrying the scent of damp earth and lavender with her. The glow from her oil lamp casts a warm, inviting square of light onto the water, a small beacon in the growing darkness. You watch the light begin its long, slow journey towards dusk, a transformation you have seen countless times, yet one that always holds a new, subtle beauty. The afternoon's clear, sharp brilliance softens, the sun sinking lower over the open sea, just visible through the narrow channel that guards your cove. First, a wash of pure liquid gold spills across the water, turning the gentle ripples near the dock into a shimmering tapestry of molten light. Each tiny wave catches the sun, holding it for a fleeting moment before releasing it to the next, a silent, endless conversation between light and water. The air, which held a lingering warmth from the day, begins to cool almost imperceptibly. A faint, sweet scent of pine needles and damp earth drifts down from the headland, carried on a breath of air that whispers through the ancient trees. You stand at the bow of the Myra, one hand resting lightly on the varnished teak rail, feeling the slow, rhythmic lift and fall of the boat beneath your feet. It is a familiar motion, a gentle rocking that has become as much a part of you as your own breathing. The gold deepens, intensifying into a rich, burnished orange. The distant horizon, where the sea meets the sky, becomes a vivid, fiery line, drawing your eye outward, beyond the protective embrace of the cove. The shadows lengthen, stretching from the base of the towering spruces on the western shore, reaching long, inky fingers across the still surface of the water. They are soft shadows, not harsh or stark, but diffuse and gentle, blurring the edges of the world. A lone gull cries overhead, a mournful, lingering sound that seems to hang in the air for a long moment before fading into the vast quiet. You notice the way the light catches the underside of its wings, turning them a translucent, rosy hue as it circles once, then drifts away towards the open sea. Chester, who had been curled in a patch of fading sunlight on the foredeck, stretches languidly, a slow, deliberate movement that ripples through his orange fur. He yawns, revealing a flash of pink tongue, then settles back down, his eyes half closed, perfectly content in the diminishing light. The orange deepens further, bleeding into shades of apricot and peach, then softening into a delicate, ethereal pink. It is a color that seems to exist only in these moments, a fragile, fleeting beauty. The clouds high above catch the last direct rays of the sun, blushing with an astonishing array of rosy hues, like brushstrokes on an immense canvas. The water below reflects these colors, transforming the surface of the cove into a mirror of the sky, a vast expanse of shimmering pink and violet. You walk slowly from the bow, along the narrow side deck, to the small folding chair on the dock. The wood feels cool beneath your fingertips as you settle down, leaning back slightly, letting the silence of the cove envelop you. The air is growing noticeably cooler now, carrying with it the crisp, briny tang of the low tide. You can hear the gentle lapping of the water against the Myra's hull, a soft, murmuring sound that is both constant and comforting. It is the heartbeat of your world here. The pink deepens, transitioning into a soft lavender, then a muted violet. The last vestiges of the sun's direct light vanish below the horizon, leaving behind a radiant afterglow that paints the western sky in ever-fading pastels. The forest, which moments ago seemed to glow with reflected light, now begins to recede into shades of deep emerald and charcoal, its dense canopy becoming a solid, unyielding silhouette against the fading sky. The trees seem to draw closer, their ancient presence a quiet, watchful embrace around the cove. You take a slow, deep breath, filling your lungs with the cool, clean air. There is a profound sense of peace in these moments, a feeling of being utterly present, connected to the natural rhythms of the world. The worries of the day, if there were any, have long since drifted away, replaced by a quiet contemplation of the changing light. As the violet deepens, the first star pricks through the darkening canvas of the sky. It is a tiny, unwavering point of light, high above the eastern headland, almost shy in its appearance. Then another and another, until a scattering of pinpricks begins to emerge, hinting at the vast, intricate tapestry that will soon unfold. The air grows stiller, the gentle breeze having fallen to a whisper. The world narrows around you, focusing on the subtle shifts of color, the soft sounds, the cool air on your skin. The faint scent of wood smoke, carried from Walter's cottage high on the headland, drifts down to you, a comforting reminder of another quiet presence in this secluded world. You imagine him, perhaps, sitting by his own fire, watching the same stars begin to appear. The pinks and purples in the western sky finally surrender to a deep, luminous blue. It is not the harsh blue of midday, but a profound, velvety hue, almost indigo at the zenith, lightening to a softer, more translucent shade near the horizon where the last whispers of daylight still cling. The water of the cove reflects this deep blue, transforming into a dark, mysterious surface that seems to hold secrets in its depths. The Myra, with its varnished wood and brass fittings, now appears as a darker silhouette against this deepening blue, her mast pointing like a slender finger towards the nascent stars. You stay on the dock, watching as the blue deepens further, growing richer, more intense. The outlines of the trees become sharper, etched against the deepening sky, yet also softer, losing their individual details and merging into a solid, protective wall. The distant sound of an owl, a low, resonant hoot, drifts from the forest, a sound that is both wild and comforting, a reminder of the unseen life that stirs in the darkness. The temperature continues its slow, steady descent. You pull the light wool shawl, which had been draped over the back of the chair, more snugly around your shoulders. The coolness is not biting, but refreshing, a gentle embrace that signals the day's end and the arrival of night's quiet dominion. You close your eyes for a moment, simply listening. The soft lapping of the water, the distant hoot of the owl, the rustle of leaves in the forest, the faint creak of the Myra's rigging as she shifts gently at her mooring. These are the sounds that fill your nights here, a symphony of natural quiet. When you open your eyes again, the blue has almost fully transitioned to a deep, inky black. Full dark has arrived. The stars, which were once shy pinpricks, now blaze with an astonishing clarity. They are so numerous, so bright, that they seem to spill across the entire dome of the sky, a vast, glittering expanse that makes you feel both small and utterly connected to something immense and eternal. The Milky Way, a faint, milky band, begins to reveal itself, a cosmic river flowing through the darkness. The air is still, save for the faintest breath of a breeze that carries the scent of salt and damp earth. You can no longer discern the individual hues of the water, which now appears as a dark, reflective surface, mirroring the brilliant stars above. The Myra, lit now by the soft, warm glow of an oil lamp from within her cabin, casts a gentle, wavering light onto the dock and the surrounding water. This small pool of light creates a cozy, enclosed world, a sanctuary within the vastness of the night. You stand slowly, feeling the cool wood of the dock beneath your bare feet. The day has completed its cycle, surrendering to the serene embrace of the night. The promise of painting the luminous green moss on the island's stones tomorrow feels like a quiet gift, a gentle thread connecting this moment to the next. For now, there is only the profound stillness of the cove, the immense canopy of stars, and the soft, rhythmic breathing of the Myra. You step from the dock onto the small deck, the sound of your footfall absorbed by the quiet. The glow from the cabin beckons, a warm, inviting beacon in the deep dark. The last sliver of sun dips beneath the horizon, painting the western sky in hues of deep violet and fiery orange. A cool whisper of air drifts through the open companionway, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant wood smoke. You watch as the vibrant colors fade, softening into twilight, and then, with a quiet sigh, you reach for the box of matches beside the oil lamp. With a gentle click and a scratch, a small flame leaps to life, catching the wick of the lamp. A soft, buttery glow expands, pushing back the encroaching shadows. The cabin of the Myra transforms, bathed in an amber warmth that seems to emanate from the very wood itself. The polished teak bulkheads, which had been muted in the fading daylight, now gleam with a rich, honeyed luster. Every curve and grain in the wood seems to awaken, catching and reflecting the lamplight in a dance of gentle undulation. Shadows, long and languid, stretch and sway with the subtle rocking of the boat, making the small space feel both intimate and alive. They ripple across the ceiling, trace the lines of the built-in bookshelves, and soften the edges of the small folding table. You notice how the light picks out the brass fittings, the hooks holding the lamp itself, the hinges on the locker doors, the tiny, polished rim of the porthole, each gleam a small, contained star in the deepening dusk. The air inside the cabin, cool just moments ago, begins to absorb the lamp's warmth, settling into a comfortable, inviting stillness. A faint aroma of warm oil and a hint of salt mingles with the subtle, comforting scent of cedar from the wood itself. You take a slow, deep breath, letting the quiet peace of the space fill you. Chester, who had been dozing on the foredeck, seems to sense the shift in atmosphere. You hear the soft thud of his paws as he jumps down from the deck into the cockpit, then the quiet scratch of his claws on the companionway steps. He appears in the opening, his orange fur catching the lamplight, a silent, knowing presence. He surveys the cabin with his unblinking emerald eyes, then, with a graceful leap, lands softly on the narrow settee. He curls into a tight ball, a small, purring engine of contentment, his white cravat a luminous patch against his rich fur. Your hands move with an unhurried familiarity, a rhythm born of countless evenings spent in this small, beloved space. You reach for the kettle, already filled with water from the rain barrel, and place it on the small cast iron wood stove. A few small pieces of kindling, dry and ready, are placed carefully inside, followed by a larger chunk of seasoned fir. With another match, a new flame flickers within the stove, quickly catching hold. The crackle of the wood, barely audible at first, grows into a gentle murmur, a companionable whisper in the quiet cabin. A delicate wisp of smoke, smelling faintly of pine, curls from the stovetop before being drawn efficiently up the flue. While the water heats and the stove warms, you prepare your simple supper. From a locker beneath the settee, you retrieve a round, crusty loaf of bread, still warm from the village baker's oven this morning. You slice off a thick piece, the knife making a satisfying thud as it meets the cutting board. Beside it, you place a ceramic bowl, its small blue flowers a familiar sight. Tonight, a hearty lentil stew, simmered slowly over the past hour, awaits in a copper pot hanging above the stove. The scent of savory herbs and earthy lentils now joins the growing symphony of smells in the cabin. You ladle the steaming stew into the bowl, the rich, dark liquid glistening under the lamplight. The copper pot, burnished by years of use, gleams with a deep, rosy sheen. You carry the bowl and the bread to the small folding table, which you've set up in the center of the cabin. It's a tight fit, but you navigate the space with an instinctive grace, never bumping an elbow or a knee. Before you eat, you pause, your head bowed slightly, a silent, heartfelt moment of gratitude for the warmth, the food, the shelter, and the quiet company of Chester. It's a small, private ritual, as natural as breathing. You eat slowly, savoring each spoonful of stew, the warmth spreading through you. The simple flavors are comforting and deeply satisfying. The bread, crusty on the outside and soft within, is perfect for soaking up the last drops. Chester, now fully awake, watches your every move with an air of dignified expectation, occasionally stretching a paw in your direction, a silent plea for a stray crumb. You break off a tiny piece of bread and offer it to him. He takes it daintily, his small, rough tongue brushing your fingers. After your meal, you clear the table, washing the dishes in a small basin with water heated on the stove. The ceramic bowl and cup with their blue flowers are returned to their place in the rack. The copper pot, still warm, is carefully wiped down and hung back on its hook, reflecting the lamplight like a miniature sun. You settle back onto the settee, a mug of steaming chamomile tea warming your hands. The crackle of the fire in the stove is a gentle lullaby, and the faint, rhythmic lapping of water against the hull of the Myra is a constant, soothing presence. Chester, having finished his bread, has curled up even tighter, his purr a low, resonant rumble against your leg. As you sip your tea, your gaze drifts around the familiar cabin, a place of profound comfort and safety. You notice the spines of the books on the shelves, a well-loved collection of maritime adventures, poetry, and old journals. You notice the small, carefully rolled chart tucked into a narrow space beneath the sleeping berth, a detail that always catches your eye. It's a chart of this very coast, but when you first found it, it was already there, as if waiting for you. Small pencil crosses dot its surface, marking places you don't recognize, tiny enigmas on a familiar map. And then your eyes land on the old tin. It sits on a small, recessed shelf, almost hidden behind a stack of weathered navigation books. It's an oval tin, painted a faded dark green, with a small, intricate floral pattern on the lid that is almost worn away. You found it tucked deep inside a locker beneath the galley sink, long after you had settled into the Myra. It felt heavy then, heavier than an empty tin should be. When you opened it, you found a small stack of letters, tied with a thin, brittle ribbon. You've never opened them. Not truly not to read them. You've held them, felt the thick, aged paper, seen the faded script on the outside of the top envelope, but you've never broken the seal, never read the words within. There's a name on that top envelope, written in a graceful, flowing hand, a name that isn't yours and isn't Walter's and isn't the Myra's. It's a woman's name, and it feels as though it belongs to a secret, a story you are not yet meant to know. Tonight, however, as the lamplight casts its warm, inviting glow, and the Myra rocks gently, a quiet curiosity stirs within you. It's not an insistent or urgent feeling, but a soft, persistent whisper. The tin, usually just a part of the cabin's furniture, seems to draw your attention, to hold a silent question. You reach out, your fingers tracing the smooth, cool metal of your teacup. The thought surfaces, unbidden and gentle. Who was she, and what did these letters say? It's a thought that has surfaced before, always in these quiet, contemplative moments. The letters, the chart with its mysterious crosses, the name scratched into the hull near the waterline, a name that is definitely not Myra. All these small, unexplained details are woven into the fabric of your life here in the cove. They are parts of the boat's silent history, pieces of a puzzle you haven't yet felt compelled to solve. You remember Walter's quiet references to whoever was here before. He never elaborates, just a soft, almost wistful turn of phrase that hints at a past you are not privy to, and you have never asked him to elaborate. Perhaps, you realize, you've been waiting. Waiting for the right moment, or perhaps for some inner prompting to truly delve into these quiet mysteries. The lamplight flickers almost imperceptibly as a faint breath of air moves through the cabin. The soft glow on the old tin seems to deepen, as if holding its secrets even more closely. You consider reaching for it, taking it down from the shelf, untying the brittle ribbon, and finally reading the words that have been waiting. But the moment passes, the feeling of quiet inquiry remains, a gentle hum in the back of your mind, but the urge to act, to unravel the mystery tonight, does not solidify. It feels like a story to be opened another time, a quiet discovery for a different evening. You take another sip of tea, the warmth spreading through you, grounding you in the present moment. The Myra creaks softly, a familiar, comforting sound. The wind outside has picked up just a touch, a faint whistle in the rigging, a gentle sigh through the trees on the headland. The quiet curiosity about the letters and the previous inhabitant of the Myra lingers, a soft, unasked question that will accompany you into sleep. It's not a burden, but a gentle thread, a part of the rich, unspoken tapestry of this place you call home. You decide with a quiet certainty that the letters can wait. Tomorrow, you will paint the luminous green moss, and perhaps another night, the story held within the old tin will finally reveal itself. For now, the quiet comfort of the Myra, the soft glow of the lamp, and the rhythmic lapping of the water are enough, more than enough. The lamp inside the Myra casts a warm, buttery glow through the small portlights, painting faint rectangles of light on the dark water of the cove. Beyond these small illuminated spaces, the world is a canvas of deep, velvety indigo, edged with the inky silhouettes of the old-growth forest. The air has grown cooler with the descent of night, carrying the sharp, clean scent of pine needles and damp earth from the headland, mingled with the briny tang of the sea. You watch as the lamplight flickers gently, making the shadows dance in the cabin, a quiet rhythm to the passing hours. The warmth from the cast-iron stove is a comforting presence, radiating outward, holding the chill of the evening at bay. Chester, curled into a tight ball at the foot of your berth, lets out a soft, contented sigh, his breathing a steady, rhythmic pulse in the quiet. His white cravat of fur is a small, pale moon against his deep orange coat. A gentle creak echoes from the hull, the ancient wood of the Myra shifting infinitesimally against the pull of the water, a living sound that speaks of long journeys and deep roots. It's a sound you've come to know intimately, a lullaby that has replaced the rush of the world you left behind. You trace the rim of your ceramic mug, the warmth of the chamomile tea seeping into your fingertips. The small blue flowers painted on the side seem to bloom in the lamplight. You push yourself up from the folding table, the gentle rocking of the boat a familiar motion beneath your feet. The narrow cabin feels like a sanctuary, a perfectly formed world within the larger, wilder one outside. Moving with a practiced ease, you unlatch the companionway door and step out onto the small aft deck. The night air embraces you, cool and crisp, a refreshing contrast to the warmth of the cabin. Above, the sky is a breathtaking expanse of scattered stars, each one a tiny, shimmering diamond set against the dark velvet. They reflect in the still waters of the cove, thousands of pinpricks of light dancing and blurring with the almost imperceptible movement of the surface. It feels as if you are suspended between two heavens, one above and one below. Your gaze drifts across the water, drawn by the dim, dark shape of the island about 400 meters distant. It is a mass of deeper shadow against the already dark backdrop, its ancient trees rising like silent sentinels. Tonight, the island holds its secrets close, offering only the promise of the moss-covered stones you plan to paint tomorrow, the luminous green that you can almost see in your mind's eye. A faint, mournful hoot drifts across the water from the headland, the call of a great horned owl, a sound that speaks of ancient forests and untouched wilderness. It is a sound of profound solitude, yet in this moment it feels like a shared secret, a quiet acknowledgement of the life that thrives unseen in the darkness. The wind, which had been a gentle whisper earlier, now sighs softly through the rigging of the Myra, a low, melodic hum that rises and falls, a natural music that cradles the cove. The mast, silhouetted against the starry sky, sways almost imperceptibly, its lines taut and true. You lean against the smooth, cool wood of the cabin, breathing deeply, letting the salt-laced air fill your lungs. A faint, ethereal mist is beginning to form, a thin veil of fog creeping in from the mouth of the channel, softening the edges of the distant trees, blurring the line between water and sky. It promises a morning of gentle mystery, a world enshrouded in silver. A quiet feeling unfurls within you, a warmth that spreads through your chest. It isn't a feeling of longing for something lost, nor a yearning for something yet to come. It is a profound sense of gratitude, a deep, abiding peace that settles over you like a soft blanket. This life, chosen with intention and held with care, feels right. It is a life shaped by the rhythm of the tides, the changing light, the simple, honest work of hands and heart. You remember the rush of the world you left behind, the constant hum of unseen currents, the relentless push and pull of expectations. Here, there is only the quiet drift, the gentle unfurling of days. The decisions are small, immediate, and tangible. Whether to light the stove, what book to read, which path to walk. It is a freedom you had not known was possible, a spaciousness of spirit that allows for deep breathing, for seeing, for simply being asterisk. This quiet space, this small cove, feels like a deep breath held and then slowly released. It is a place of belonging, not because you were born to it, but because you chose it. The Myra, with its varnished teak and worn brass, its steady pulse against the water, is more than a boat. It is a home that carries the echo of your own journey, a vessel that brought you to this particular stillness. You think of the things aboard the Myra that are not yours, the rolled chart tucked under the berth, its small pencil crosses a silent language you don't understand, the old tin with letters you have never opened, their secrets held in a quiet suspense. The name scratched faintly into the hull, a whisper of another story, another life. These small mysteries are not unsettling. Rather, they feel like gentle companions, threads of a larger tapestry, connecting you to the unseen history of this place and this vessel. They are reminders that life is a continuous unfolding, a series of quiet discoveries. And then there is Walter, with his slow words and knowing eyes, a steady presence on the headland. He asks for nothing, yet gives so much, a silent guardian of this wild, beautiful place. His occasional, quiet references to whoever was here before stir a gentle curiosity within you. You wonder about them, these nameless predecessors, what drew them to this cove, what stories they left behind, what they saw in the shifting light and the deep shadows. You wonder if they, too, felt this same profound sense of peace. The fog continues its slow, silent march, now beginning to obscure the distant treeline, wrapping the world in a soft, diffused glow from the hidden stars. The air grows cooler still, and you feel a gentle shiver. It is not from cold, but from the quiet wonder of it all, the immense, beautiful simplicity of this moment. You pull your woolen shawl tighter around your shoulders, the soft fibers a comforting weight. The Myra shifts again, a low groan of wood against wood, a sound that grounds you firmly in the present. You are here now, held in the embrace of this quiet night. The soft lapping of the water against the hull becomes more distinct as the other sounds of the night seem to recede, drawing closer, a murmur against the wood just below your feet. You notice Chester stirring slightly inside the cabin, his tail giving a lazy thump against the berth. He is a creature of deep instincts, of silent comings and goings, a perfect reflection of this quiet life. He chose this place just as you did, and his presence is another thread in the tapestry of belonging. As the fog deepens, the reflections of the stars on the water soften, blurring into a luminous haze. The distinction between the water and the sky begins to dissolve, and you feel as if you are suspended in a world of silver and shadow, a liminal space between waking and dreaming. The quiet deepens, a profound stillness that seems to absorb all sound, leaving only the soft sigh of the wind in the rigging and the gentle whisper of the water. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the coolness of the night air brush against your eyelids. When you open them again, the world feels even more dreamlike, the edges of the cove softened by the encroaching mist. The island is now just a deeper, formless shadow, its presence felt more than seen. A question, gentle and unhurried, forms in your mind, not a pressing one, but a soft thread to follow into sleep. You wonder if the light on the island, the one you sometimes glimpse just before the deepest part of night, will appear tonight, piercing through the nascent fog. You decide you will keep a quiet watch for it, just for a little while longer, before returning to the warmth of the cabin and the steady pulse of the Myra. The day begins to fold itself inward, the last vestiges of twilight fading from the western sky, leaving behind a deep indigo that slowly gives way to the velvety black of night. You watch from the main cabin as the stars begin to prick through the growing darkness, tiny pinpricks of light in the vast expanse above. The gentle rocking of the Myra against the dock timbers is a soothing rhythm, a constant companion that underscores the profound silence of the cove. Inside, the cast iron stove radiates a comfortable warmth, chasing away the evening chill. The soft orange glow through its small glass door dances across the varnished teak, making the wood grain seem to ripple and flow like water. You notice the way the light catches the brass fittings, glinting softly, and the polished copper pots hanging above the galley, reflecting tiny distorted versions of the flames. The air is rich with the scent of wood smoke, mingling with the subtle, clean aroma of salt from the sea and the faint, sweet memory of the rosemary and lavender from the dockside pots. Chester, ever a creature of comfort and quiet observation, has settled himself into his favored spot at the foot of your berth. You can hear his low, steady purr, a rhythmic vibration that seems to resonate with the hum of the boat itself. It's a sound of deep contentment, a quiet testament to the peace that envelops this small world. You reach out a hand, and he nuzzles into your fingers, his fur warm and soft against your skin, before settling back into a deep, dreamless sleep. The oil lamp hanging from its brass hook above the small folding table casts a warm, golden pool of light. In its glow, you pick up the book you had set aside earlier, a collection of old maritime poems. The weight of the volume in your hands, the rough texture of the paper, the faint scent of aged ink, these are small, grounding sensations. You turn a page slowly, your eyes tracing the lines of verse, but your mind is not entirely on the words. Instead, it drifts, a slow current carrying you through the quiet eddies of the day. You remember the feeling of the rough bark of the cedar tree against your palm as you walked the forest path this morning, the way the light filtered through the canopy, painting shifting patterns on the mossy ground. You recall the distinct scent of damp earth and pine needles, the crisp coolness of the air on your face. And then there was Walter. He had been tending to his small vegetable garden, his movements slow and deliberate, his hands gnarled by years of work. You had stopped to exchange a few words about the weather, about the progress of his beans. His voice, as always, was a low rumble, seasoned with the wisdom of a long life lived close to the land and the sea. He had paused, leaning on his hoe, and looked out towards the narrow channel that led to the open sea. "The tides are shifting," he'd said, his gaze distant, almost as if he were seeing beyond the horizon. "Always changing, always bringing new things in, taking old things out." Then, almost as an afterthought, his eyes had flickered towards the island, shrouded in its usual green mystery. "Sometimes, Willow," he'd continued, his voice barely a whisper, "the sea brings back things you thought were long gone, or shows you things you never knew were there to begin with." He hadn't elaborated, just offered a small, knowing smile and returned to his work. The words had settled in your mind, like a smooth stone dropped into still water, creating ripples that slowly spread outwards. You hadn't thought much of it at the time, dismissing it as one of Walter's many quiet observations, imbued with the gentle philosophy of someone deeply connected to his surroundings. But now, in the stillness of the evening, with only the distant whisper of the sea and Chester's soft purr for company, Walter's words returned. "The sea brings back things you thought were long gone, or shows you things you never knew were there to begin with." You glanced towards the porthole, a small, round window to the outside world. Beyond the dark curve of the headland, you know the island lies, a silent sentinel. Earlier, as the last light faded, you had imagined you saw a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer from its western side, a fleeting glint that could have been a trick of the light, or perhaps the moon reflecting off a wet rock. But now only darkness reigns, broken by the steady, unwavering gaze of the distant stars. There is no rush to understand Walter's meaning, no urgent need to unravel the small mystery of that fleeting light. The questions, like the gentle lapping of water against the hull, are simply there. They are not demanding, not unsettling, but rather a soft current beneath the surface of the calm. They are part of the quiet drift, the gentle unfolding of life in this cove. You close your book, placing it carefully on the table. The lines of poetry, the quiet rhythm of Walter's words, the soft warmth of the stove, everything seems to slow, to deepen. Your gaze drifts around the small cabin, taking in the familiar, comforting details. The worn gleam of the teak, the sturdy curve of the hull, the soft pile of your blanket folded neatly at the foot of the berth. Each object holds a silent story, a memory of moments lived within these wooden walls. A faint shiver runs through you, not of cold, but of a quiet, almost indescribable wonder. It's a feeling that comes with the deep stillness of these nights, when the world outside feels vast and ancient, and your own small existence within the Myra feels both insignificant and profoundly precious. You are held within this space, between the deep waters and the whispering trees, a temporary inhabitant in a timeless place. You rise slowly, moving with the practiced grace of someone accustomed to the gentle sway of a boat. You add a small piece of cedar to the stove, the wood crackling softly as it catches, sending a brief flare of light into the cabin. The warmth deepens, wrapping around you like a soft shawl. You extinguish the oil lamp, plunging the cabin into near darkness, save for the faint glow from the stove and the pale starlight filtering through the porthole. The world outside narrows, drawing closer, yet expanding in its silent mystery. You lie down in your berth, the soft mattress yielding to your weight. Chester stirs briefly, then settles again, his warmth a comforting presence against your feet. The sounds of the night become more pronounced in the darkness. The soft sigh of the wind in the rigging, a distant hoot of an owl from the headland, the gentle slap and gurgle of water against the Myra's hull, a lullaby woven by the sea itself. You close your eyes, but the images of the day linger. The deep green of the island moss, the quiet wisdom in Walter's eyes, the fleeting shimmer of light across the water. The questions remain, not as worries, but as soft threads, gently pulling at the edges of your awareness. They are quiet invitations to tomorrow, to the continued unfolding of this peaceful existence. You breathe deeply, feeling the slow rise and fall of your own chest, mirroring the gentle rhythm of the sea. The darkness wraps around you, soft and complete, a gentle hand guiding you towards the quiet depths of sleep. The light of the day has long since faded from the narrow channel, and the cove has gathered itself into a deep, profound stillness. You feel the air grow cooler, carrying the damp scent of the forest floor and the sharper tang of the salt marsh at low tide. A thin veil of fog has begun to drift across the water, softening the sharp edges of the trees on the headland, blurring the distinction between water and sky. The world outside the Myra's small cabin has become a study in muted grays and indigos, a landscape painted with a very soft brush. Inside, the warm glow of the oil lamp casts long, dancing shadows that stretch and shrink with the gentle sway of the boat. The flame, turned low, breathes a soft yellow light onto the varnished teak, making the grain of the wood seem to ripple and flow. You hear the quiet, rhythmic lapping of water against the hull, a sound that has become as familiar as your own heartbeat. It is a deep, resonant whisper, constant and reassuring, a lullaby woven into the very fabric of the night. Occasionally, a faint, almost imperceptible creak echoes through the timbers, the sound of the Myra settling deeper into the embrace of the water, a living thing sighing in its sleep. You move through the small cabin with unhurried grace, your movements practiced and quiet. The day's small tasks are done, and now comes the gentle ritual of preparing for the night. You reach for the cast iron stove, its surface still radiating a comforting warmth. With a small, hooked poker, you carefully bank the remaining embers, pushing them to the back of the firebox and covering them with a layer of ash. This ensures they will hold their heat through the long hours until morning, ready to be coaxed back to life with a few dry kindling sticks. The faint, smoky scent of cedar and fir lingers in the air, a warm memory of the fire's earlier brightness. The small galley, with its copper pots hanging neatly, feels cool to the touch. You wipe down the counter with a damp cloth, collecting the stray crumbs from the evening meal. The ceramic dishes with their delicate blue flowers are already washed and stacked, drying on a small rack. Each action is performed with a focused slowness, a quiet meditation on the texture of the cloth, the smooth coolness of the ceramic, the glint of the oil lamp on the polished copper. You turn your attention to the narrow sleeping berth in the bow, the heart of your small home. The heavy wool blanket, folded neatly at the foot of the bed, feels soft and substantial beneath your fingertips. You smooth it out, drawing it up over the pillows, creating a welcoming cocoon. The air in the berth is slightly cooler than the main cabin, carrying a faint, clean scent of cedar from the hull. The small bookshelves built into the hull are filled with well-loved volumes, their spines a comforting presence in the low light. You run a finger over the smooth curve of a leather-bound cover, a silent acknowledgement of the stories waiting within. Chester, who had been curled in a tight ball on the small folding table earlier, now stretches languidly, a long, slow extension of his orange body. He yawns, a tiny pink cavern in his face, then drops lightly to the floor. You watch as he pads silently across the cabin, his movements fluid and unhurried, a shadow in the dim light. He pauses at the edge of the berth, his tail giving a single, slow swish, and then with a quiet hop, he lands at the foot of your bed. He circles twice, a small, soft purr beginning to rumble deep in his chest, before settling himself into his familiar spot, a warm, weighty presence against the blanket. You sit on the edge of the berth for a moment, listening to the world outside. The fog has thickened, and now the distant cry of a solitary night bird sounds muffled, as if filtered through a heavy curtain. The rustle of leaves on the headland has quieted, the wind having dwindled to a barely perceptible breath. It is a stillness that is not empty, but full of quiet presences, the gentle hum of life settling into slumber. You feel a profound sense of peace in this quietude, a feeling of being held within the sheltering arms of the cove. Your hand reaches for the small, brass oil lamp hanging on its hook beside the berth. With a careful twist of the knob, you draw the wick down, lowering the flame until it is barely a spark, a tiny point of light in the deepening shadows. The cabin is plunged into a soft, velvety darkness, illuminated only by the faint glow of the banked embers in the stove and the silvery moonlight filtering through the small porthole, casting a shifting pattern on the ceiling. The air is cool and clean, carrying the lingering scent of wood smoke and the fresh, briny perfume of the sea. You slip beneath the heavy wool blanket, the coolness of the sheets giving way to the gentle warmth of the fabric. Chester shifts slightly at the foot of the berth, his purr a quiet vibration that travels through the mattress, a soothing, rhythmic sound. You close your eyes, but the world does not disappear. Instead, it seems to sharpen, the sounds becoming clearer, the sensations more immediate. The gentle sway of the Myra is a rocking cradle, a soft, continuous motion that lulls you deeper into relaxation. You feel the slight pressure of Chester's weight against your feet, a comforting anchor in the darkness. The scent of the salt air, carried on a whisper of a breeze through the open hatch, fills your lungs. You hear the faint, distant hoot of an owl, a sound that seems to rise and fall with the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. The water against the hull continues its ceaseless conversation, a murmuring lullaby that has accompanied you through countless nights. Your thoughts drift to the island, to the vivid green moss you plan to paint tomorrow. You imagine the way the light will catch its velvety texture, the subtle variations in its color, from deep forest green to a brighter, almost luminous emerald. You picture the ancient stones, worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain, their surfaces softened by nature's patient hand. The image is a peaceful one, a quiet promise of a creative morning. A gentle sigh escapes you, a release of any lingering remnants of the day. You are present in this moment, held by the soft embrace of the Myra, surrounded by the quiet symphony of the cove. The world outside narrows to the warmth of your berth, the weight of the blanket, the soft presence of Chester, the constant, gentle whisper of water against wood. You feel yourself drifting, a quiet vessel on a calm sea, carried by the subtle currents of the night. The unanswered questions of the world outside, the small mysteries, do not intrude here. They wait patiently, like the soft light of dawn, beyond the edges of your sleep. For now, there is only the rhythmic sound of water, the deep, dark stillness of the cove, and the quiet comfort of your own breathing. You wonder briefly about the stories the Myra's timbers could tell, the countless nights she has spent cradled in such stillness, before the thought itself dissolves into the deepening quiet. The gentle sway of the Myra holds you now, a rhythmic cradle beneath the darkening sky. You feel the weight of the wool blanket settle across you, a familiar comfort against the cool night air that seeps in through the small portholes. It smells faintly of salt and cedar, a scent woven into the fibers from countless nights at sea and quiet days in the cove. Beneath your cheek, the pillow yields softly, and the murmur of Chester's purr vibrates through the thin mattress, a low, contented rumble at the foot of your berth. The oil lamp turned low casts a warm, honeyed glow that barely reaches the curved teak ceiling. Shadows dance and stretch with the gentle rocking, making familiar objects seem softer, less defined. The coppery gleam of pots in the galley is muted, the spines of books on their shelves mere blurs of color. you can still smell the lingering wood smoke from the cast iron stove, a deep, earthy aroma that mixes with the faint, briny tang of the tide. It is a scent of home, of shelter, of the quiet warmth that gathers within these wooden walls. Through the narrow glass of the porthole just above your head, you can discern the faintest shimmer of moonlight on the water, a silver path leading out into the blackness of the cove. Beyond that, the silhouettes of the ancient firs on the headland stand sentinel, their branches whispering secrets to the passing breeze. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the darkness behind your lids deepen, then open them again, watching the light from the lamp play on the polished wood. The grain of the teak seems to swirl and flow, patterns emerging and receding with the slow, almost imperceptible movement of the boat. You feel the slight shift of Chester as he adjusts himself at your feet, a heavy warmth against your ankles. His purr deepens, a steady thrum that seems to resonate with the soft lapping of water against the hull. It is a sound so constant, so ingrained in the fabric of these nights that you barely notice it, yet its absence would be a profound silence. The Myra sighs with the turning tide, small creaks and groans from her wooden bones, settling deeper into the water as if preparing for her own long sleep. The air in the berth is soft and still, warmed by your breath and the last embers of the fire in the small stove. You can almost feel the heat radiating, a memory of the day's warmth held captive within the sturdy iron. It is a gentle heat, not oppressive, but a steady, comforting presence in the cool of the night. You turn your head slightly, feeling the cool smoothness of the pillowcase against your cheek, and listen to the symphony of the night. The water, the wood, the soft breathing of the cat. The sounds of the cove drift in, softened by distance and the thickness of the hull. A distant owl calls, a long, mournful hoot that echoes through the trees on the headland. Then silence again, deep and expansive, broken only by the water. The rhythmic sound of the waves against the hull becomes a lullaby, a steady pulse that mirrors the slow beat of your own heart. Each ripple, each gentle slap, seems to draw you deeper into the quietude of the night, pulling the edges of your awareness inward. The Myra breathes with the water, a slow, deep breath, rising and falling with an ancient rhythm. You feel it in your body, a subtle, almost imperceptible sway that rocks you gently. The warmth of the blanket settles deeper, molding itself to your form, a cocoon of soft wool and quiet peace. Chester's purr continues, a low, steady hum, a companion in the deepening silence. The lamp, now barely a flicker, casts long, dancing shadows that stretch and shrink, until they are almost indistinguishable from the darkness. The edges of the day begin to blur, the sharp details of memory softening into indistinct impressions. You recall the feel of the cool moss beneath your fingers on the island, the vibrant green that seemed to hold its own light. You remember the taste of the warm tea, the scent of the wood smoke, the quiet companionship of Chester. These memories drift through your mind, unbidden and unhurried, like leaves floating on a still pond. Each one is a small comfort, a quiet affirmation of the day's simple beauty. The water whispers its secrets to the hull, a soft, continuous murmur. Whisper, whisper. The boat rocks gently, gently. Rock, rock. Chester breathes, deep and slow. Breathe, breathe. The darkness deepens. Deepen, deepen. You feel the weight of your eyelids, heavy, heavy. The world outside the berth seems to recede, becoming a distant hum, a soft echo. All that remains is the warmth, the quiet, the steady rhythm. The rhythm of the water, the rhythm of the boat. The rhythm of breath. The light from the lamp fades further, a tiny ember now, a last point of warmth in the encroaching dark. Soon it will be gone, leaving only the profound, sheltering darkness of the cove. You feel the slow release of your muscles, the subtle yielding of your body to the mattress, to the boat, to the night. There is no urgency here, no demand, only the invitation to rest. The water laps, laps, the wood creaks, creaks. The cat purrs, purrs. These sounds are woven into the fabric of your sleep, gentle threads that bind you to this place, to this moment. The memory of the island's moss, so green and luminous, drifts back into your thoughts, so green. So luminous, a promise of tomorrow, a quiet joy to anticipate. You can almost feel its softness beneath your fingertips, cool and damp. The subtle scent of damp earth and growing things seems to fill the berth, a phantom aroma that accompanies the image. The gentle rocking continues, a slow, steady sway that pulls you deeper, deeper. The warmth of the blanket, the weight of Chester, the soft, rhythmic sounds, all are merging now, becoming one sensation of profound peace. The small discoveries of the day, the glint of light on the water, the particular shade of green on a leaf, the quiet understanding in Walter's eyes, they all gently fold themselves away, tucked into the quiet corners of your mind. They are seeds planted, waiting for the light of morning to bring them into full awareness again. But for now, they are soft and still, part of the deepening quiet. The boat breathes, a long, slow exhalation. The water sighs, a hushed whisper against the planks. You feel a profound sense of gratitude, a warmth that spreads from your heart through your limbs, settling into every part of your being. Gratitude for the shelter, for the quiet beauty of this cove, for the steady companionship of Chester, for the simple rhythm of these days. It is a feeling that cradles you, a soft embrace in the encroaching darkness. The world outside narrows, shrinks until it is only the berth, the blanket, the warm weight of the cat, and the gentle, continuous sound of the water. The last flicker of the lamp dies, plunging the berth into a soft, velvety darkness. Only the faint gleam of moonlight through the porthole remains, a silver sliver that barely penetrates the deep shadows. The sounds become softer, more distant, as if moving away from you, the lapping of the water a fainter whisper now, the soft creak of the wood a gentle sigh, Chester's purr, a low, steady vibration, slowly fades into the background, becoming one with the quiet thrum of the boat. You are drifting now on the very edge of sleep, suspended between awareness and dreams. The sensation of floating is profound, as if the Myra herself is lifting you, carrying you gently across a calm sea. The cool air brushes faintly against your skin, a soft caress. The warmth beneath the blanket holds you, a steady, comforting presence. There is only the rhythm, the gentle, hypnotic rhythm, pulling you deeper into the quiet dark. The thought drifts unbidden and soft, just at the edge of consciousness. The intricate patterns of the moss, how the light catches its delicate structure. Tomorrow, you will bring your smallest brush. You will try to capture that precise, luminous green, the way it holds the light. You will try to find a shade that speaks of quiet wonder, a color that breathes. And with that gentle thought, a soft promise to yourself, you let the last vestiges of the day slip away. The Myra holds you, the water sings, you are asleep.
This is the end of today's episode. Did you listen to the whole story? Share your experience in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to The Quiet Drift. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then.